catch up on what's happened in the day, my channel is the channel to get you caught up, as well as being able to mix in your opinion if you have a particular opinion on how you feel about a subject.
Jennifer, if you'll put that URL in a Facebook comment, I'll put it on the screen.
Okay. Do you see that link, Brant? I put it in the...
Yeah, it's good. We're here now. Okay. We're here. We're live. They can hear us. And we are good.
Nice. Okay, there's been a lot of activity out there, Brant. We must be covering on out in the streets. But I didn't even know about Oklahoma State Capitol.
Yeah, so a couple of days ago, we had some active individuals that basically came in to I guess, an active democratic process, to phrase it the way that it was phrased on January 6th in comparison. And I mean, what I saw was people exercising their rights. And what I saw on January 6th, for the most part, was people exercising their rights. You're going to have bad doers, radical bad doers in every group. And but I want to say, if the left wants to taint what happened on January 6th in its essence as an insurrection, then you have to put the same shoe on the other foot when it comes to what you're talking about. So basically, individuals got loud, they got abrasive, and they were promptly escorted out. It seemed like there may have been, I don't know if it's political hopefuls, I don't know if it was people that are just prominent figures within BLM itself, but it seemed as though they did have like head leadership there. So I don't know what the ramifications of that are going to be. And this is going to be a really great talking point for Ted Cruz or someone else to really throw at the next Senate hearing, or for Matt Gaetz or someone else to stand up there and just be like, look, you guys stained this side of the altar. We gotta use the same lens when we're staining, when we're talking about this particular instance that happened just the other day in Oklahoma City. Mm-hmm. That's my particular 2 cents. I'll sit there all day and I'll have people sit in the chat and they'll just go back and forth. So, I mean,
I'm one of those people.
Yeah, exactly. And it provides really great conversation. And that's one of the main reasons why I allow people to bump heads when they're talking about that stuff, is we're never going to get to at least a compromise if we don't sit down and talk about it. When one side literally says, if you don't agree with me, you're the worst example of what we can throw at you as a term right now. That type of weaponized neologism needs to stop. It needs to stop.
That's basically what we're facing with now with the Prop B here in Austin. You get on some of these neighborhood sites, and my God, if you don't agree with what they're saying, man, they're all over you. If you even post something that's contradictory to what they want, oh my God, the list is long. And why? I mean, everybody's got an opinion, and everybody's got a right to vote, and they can vote the way they want to. And you have to agree.
Did you see my picture that I posted of the homeless guy holding a vote no on Prop B, it'll criminalize me, son? Yeah. I took a picture of it the other day. He wrote like a rhyme and everything. I was like,
I literally had a sign where I paused. I was talking to chat, and I turn over and I look at the sign in the crowd, and it literally said legalize crime. And it just blew my mind that there are individuals that do not care about the moral compass of this. There's a plot on the chart that they're wanting to do. They don't want police interactions whenever they're infringing on someone else's property rights. I got to make sure that I phrase this correctly, because I don't want people to think I'm painting with a broad, stroke of a pen here. When you are infringing on someone else's rights, your social cause has gone out the window. I don't care what your social cause is about. Once you're infringing on the few inalienable things that we're actually allowed to have, that there's a government enacted to protect, yet it's severely lacking. This is something that I'm seeing where their appeasement is leaking in, and it's redefining what mine and yours property and our property rights are. And that's the first step to socialism, is equity of property. That's the first step. We all have the same stuff. You're going to have nothing and you're going to like it. All those particular phrases that they use, It's like, what are you trying to hypnotize me? Like, what is this?
When you infringe on a person's right, especially on their own private or public property, like under the freeway, I mean, we all have to drive by there. And when these folks get a little bit aggressive, you know, they think it's okay to do that. And some of the posts that I've seen are like, you know, you're really heartless. You're not an American. I'm like, what are you talking about? You know, there's a long list of churches and clergy people that have come against that Prop B. They vote no for Prop B. I'm thinking, well, how many of these churches have allowed these homeless people to camp on their property? And of course, that really set them off. It's like, well, that's not fair. You know, you're being mean. You know, it's not what I meant. You know, they're helping out. They have these food pantries. I'm thinking, what have you done as an individual? What have you done? When have you donated to some of these causes like the Salvation Army? Or you know, do you send money? Well, no, but I give money to the guy standing on the corner. I said, that's not helping anybody but that guy on the corner.
Yeah, and it might not even be helping him. It might even be hurting him in some degree. You know, because you might be giving somebody a 5. You may give somebody a 20 and think, man, I just fed that guy for a day. No, you just cracked that dude out for the day.
Right. And
a lot of times that happens. And you know what? I'm a libertarian. I am all for the legal ingestion, consumption, injection, whatever you want to call it. You can do it if you're not operating a vehicle or have a chance of infringing on someone else's life. But this is addiction and enablement, where you're enabling somebody to continue their addiction. And I would like to see, if we're going to have all these social programs and stuff, I would really like to see a more aggressive approach to getting people off the streets that are addicted, that may be further actually physically debilitating themselves by continuing to do this. How can you get up for work if you're on heroin?
Yeah,
how can you do
and
that?
I think that's the hard part, because there are a lot of shelters around the city. There really are. But a lot of these homeless people, they don't want to go into these shelters because they want to be able to do their heroin or whatever. And so at night, the types of people you see out and about at night are definitely the most violent or just drugged out ones who don't even know where they are, because they won't go into a shelter because they want to continue that behavior.
Yeah.
It's a mindset. It's what they want. And that's okay. I totally agree with that. And you're all an adult. You pick what you want. You pick your poison. You can either go to the job 8 to 5, or you can stay at home and sleep all day. That's your job. But don't rely on me to feed you for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
That's not fair to me. You know,
you can do what you want, but I'm not paying for it. That's what you're saying.
Well, you know, with the city of Austin buying these hotels and trying to, what are we doing? What are we doing with that? If not just taking that property off the roll.
Mm-hmm.
We can't see you.
I'm coming.
Oh.
we take the property off the roll. We don't tax that piece of property anymore. So what's happening? So that burden is now placed on the taxpayer. And I don't know if you've got your new tax bill, but I did. Yeah. And it doesn't look good.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers are never going to go down, that's for sure. And the thing is that a lot of these people that vote with their hearts and not with their minds, oh man, we're helping all these people out. Like, really look at, like, if you're really into it, if you're really about helping the people, look how much of that budget actually makes it back to people. Look how much of those people that are Democrats are telling you that they have your best interest, and this guy and that guy on the other side of the aisle is the boogeyman. Yeah, look how they upgrade their boats and they upgrade their houses, and their children are now rocking all of the cleanest threads and all this stuff. It's because that person promised a bunch of crap in the front end, but really what it is, they were promised a lot of stuff on the back end that they really have to do so they can get what their incentive is. And you over 20 years in the city of Austin, you find yourself with this situation. First 10 years didn't look so bad, kind of looked handleable. I moved here officially in 2010. I've been here since 1992 off and on. And around 2000 is whenever it really started to happen. And 2010, 2011, middle of Obama's first term, it really started to kick off. And that kind of kicked off the growth of Austin. and it seemed like it appeased people, like, oh, the city's growing, it's booming, South by Southwest is getting huge, you know, so my business is getting all this business and all this stuff. Now look at it, we don't have any attractions, we're shut down for a pandemic, and the tents are doubling like every other week.
Where are the tents coming from?
Well, they're busting them in from other cities. Other cities understand that we have the most relaxed policy. Our city council is basically a carpet. You can walk right over them. And that's what I'm talking about, this appeasement. And that also goes into how we deal with crime as law enforcement. You could find yourself in a situation where the officer doesn't know where the gray area is anymore to get involved and stop potential.
Oh my gosh.
It's
I mean, that's a huge deal. Just watching all those protests that have happened in the past couple of weeks. It's so sad to see. I mean, these police officers, people say the most horrible things to them, and they can't even react. Oh my gosh. And just to have people constantly beating you down. I've heard police officers saying now that they feel like out of their whole career, they're the most hated now than they've ever been.
Probably. I mean, and who comes in and who is BLM and Antifa empowering right now for equity? Who is the biggest audience for fighting the man? Is somebody that's impoverished, somebody that's addicted, somebody that is out on the streets that has nothing else to lose. So as you appease and allow people to congregate and get more and more, you're actually empowering an army that's for equity, someone that would like to see your house cut in half so that they can have a house regardless of how much effort they put into the society.
Well, look at the open borders. Well, I mean, that's a prime example. People that are impoverished in Central America walking across the border, now they're here. And what are we going to do? We're going to go ahead and make them good Democrats when they're grown up and they can vote. And everybody's going to vote. Everybody got a check. And this is their free money here. Come to America.
Free money. Really, what they're doing, people don't understand, is they're like, you know how it's like the opposite of a stock split. So basically what it is like a Bitcoin is gaining value every day, right? You get this false sense of, oh, it's 40,000. Oh, now it's 50,000. Oh, now it's 60,000. People don't realize it takes more US dollars to fill up a Bitcoin. The dollar's going down. The Bitcoin is not going up. A lot of the demand that's coming from Bitcoin is spurred people writing the backs of other people that are taking money they didn't need that was printed from the Federal Reserve and reinvesting it into this currency. It's an artificial demand. There's a reason why it shot up during all the stimulus talk and now it's stagnating. It's because they created an artificial demand. You think I've got a Bitcoin. So if you're out there and you've got Bitcoins, your Bitcoin is increasing in value unilaterally with whatever a Bitcoin versus a tangible item that you want to get. Because at the end of the day, the Bitcoin is worth US dollars, no matter what. That's the exchange. That's where the exchange happens. If the Bitcoin wasn't worth US dollars, nobody would want to add it as a way that you could check out electronically with a wallet or exchange it. You know?
Brant, how is that different from something like a Ming vase or a Maserati? It just means that I'm buying something, and it may not really be better than a 70 a Gran Torino will get you around town just as well as the Maserati will, and you can't go 180 miles an hour. So I say it's worth $230,000, and as long as I can find somebody who'll buy it for $240,000, I'm a genius. Maybe Bitcoin is worth what people say it's worth.
Yeah, but the thing is regardless, it's always going to move. What I'm trying to say is it's going to unilaterally move with the US dollar no matter what, because that's what it's worth. Unless we're talking about the UN or anything else, you know.
It could go down a lot more than the US dollar. It could be like tulipomania, where everybody's trading tulip bulbs for fortunes, and this is a historical thing. And then
you think it'll get like that eventually?
They say, hey, I can get tulip bulbs anywhere, so now a tulip bulb's worth $1 again instead of being worth $1 million. So Bitcoin could, it could wake up tomorrow and all those multimillionaires might say, well, easy come, easy go.
I feel like what
kind of reminds me of the .com era. Remember that when you were buying a .com that didn't have any value to it, but everybody wanted to make it so expensive to buy your .com, and you bought nothing. You bought actually nothing but a word, .com, and that was it. Anything here
Nowadays, you could go buy that .com and be screwed over because it doesn't match unilaterally, let's say, your Twitter handle, your Facebook handle, all your other stuff. So it's not the best search engine optimization because you would want to have one unilateral, small, easily all lowercase, smashed together title so that you can always find it. You're unique to yours. But nowadays, you have to like cross-validate your brand by making sure that, okay, this brand, nobody else has been for the last 11 years, Johnny's Fishing Show, or something like that.
Well, Brant,
yeah, what? I all like, because you always say, okay, I'm Brant for Liberty on all platforms. I'm always like, really? No one had that? No one else had that on literally everything?
Yeah, I mean, it took a lot of wordplay.
Yeah.
And I didn't change the show to its official title until December, and I started the show in July. So for 5 months, we were just a community known as Libertarians United. And it was social libertarians. It was your super isolationist individualist libertarians. Your I don't mess with you if you don't mess with me. Your agrarian libertarians. But then I was like, you know what? The Libertarian Party has kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And if you're truly a libertarian, you kind of frown at the idea of cowing down to a party or being a part of a group. If you truly are an isolationist or an individualist or I can do for myself. And so I just say, you know what? I'm for liberty. I'm for the things that the government, regardless of how it's defined, will never be able to infringe on. Your inaliemables. And if we can get the Constitution and the way that we run government nowadays, if we could strip down regulations to where as long as you're not infringing, that you're allowed to be yourself, that I think Americans will be happier. A lot of people will be freaking happier.
Well, Brant, I want to do a quick hat tip to Mr. Brand Coherence James Ritter, whose email is trailerparkshow@hotmail.com. So he's a pioneer in that. But let me ask, pursuant to what you were just saying there, if you want to have a society where you have a lot of freedom to do what you want to do, as long as it doesn't infringe on others, you need to make changes to the laws. You need to have political action, and it's great not to say that you are part of a group and all that. But if you don't band together, you don't elect people, and that means someone else is making all those rules. And believe me, they are. They are hard at work in Washington and Austin and in your city council, and they are making rules, and it's changing your life. So that's why I'm a Republican. And for those people who are Democrats, more power to you. You've fallen in with a group of people who I disagree with, but I think that based on my long experience, the next person who's elected to most offices in America is either going to be a Republican or a Democrat.
Yeah. Oh, of course. That's why we shifted away from the libertarian approach, because I didn't even vote for libertarian. I voted for Trump, and unabashedly so. I switched to voting from Jo Jorgensen because I went to her rallies and I was a big supporter, and I got signs in my room still, and I still support the libertarian ideals. But there were some things on her stuff that immediately was just like, this is just another establishment character. A carbon emissions tax, the idea of not condemning mob violence, those two things right there. I mean, just knowing that you're trying to limit police, but at the same time apologize and enable mobs that are outside of their social cause causing infrastructural havoc, and you don't address it, you don't condemn it, that immediately and obviously for the Democrats as well, them not condemning it, I was just like, okay, you're completely not getting voted for. But Republicans were the law and order party, and traditionally as crime gets out of hand, and on August the 7th or the 8th, Chicago had the Magnificent Mile got looted, if you remember, and they looted the whole strip. And on my stream, we watched a person who was just a part of the crowd get trampled to death and killed, trampled to death, trying to get clothes, getting shirts. And They didn't even know what shirts they were getting. They were just grabbing shirts because the windows were busted open and everybody was running through there and they were doing that. And I'm sitting there as a libertarian and I'm just going, how could I ever think that an anarchist utopia could ever happen? If this is the, you know, the chaos that can ensue with no police being around, do I really want to sit around and wait for a militia to clean this up? Do I really want to sit and wait for the community to get their hands out of their pockets and quit recording this and quit trying to get the next World Star tape or the next highlight clip that we've raised? And I'm just saying indirectly, our society has raised, we don't have intervening men anymore that get in there and stop. I mean, every now and then you see a story of it and you're like, oh, this is really great. And it's because you don't see it that often. You don't see people getting involved.
If that happens, it makes the news that happens. You know what I mean? You're right. It is very rare. And I mean, it's right away. It's automatic. Whenever something just out of the ordinary happens, everyone, boom, pops open their phone. And no one really intervenes anymore. But you said something interesting. You said, did you say like a community police? You said something.
Yeah, well, I've said, do I want to sit and wait for my community to get their hands out of their pocket? Or do I have the patience for enough people to finally become uncomfortable that they decide to do something with a militia rather than having a proactive, law-abiding, justice-serving force that handles and makes sure that mine and yours basic civil liberties, like our business. How can I have any faith in my community if when I go to bed tonight, my business could be completely looted?
Yeah. And as I'm watching all these protests, what's going through my mind all the time is, oh my gosh, I feel like BLM could seriously take over and be the new police in certain communities that they want the police to go away. I can totally see it happening. And that's not the kind of police I want in my community.
No. I would much rather honestly, me personally, I would like to see sheriffs appointing with our local police force, since they're elected by the citizens. I would like to see that be the way that we majorly hire, because I want to know that there's accountability all the way up. There's no accountability in these huge police unions and these huge police organizations. There's a lot of them really don't have that much accountability. Not saying the police are bad. I'm just saying, what happens in the event? What if these narratives they were saying were true? What if we did have? I'm not saying that we do, because I don't think that we do. I think 99% of police officers are good. But in a situation right now where we did have a corrupt police force, how would we go about quickly adjudicating and fixing the problem without a collapse of society? I think it would all go back to our counties and our sheriffs would have to say, I elect this board of marshals, and these marshals have their deputies, and so on down the line, until we figure out that hierarchy of entrusted and vetted through locally elected officials.
Brent, let me give you another crack at that percentage. You said 99% of the cops are great cops, are good people.
99.5, I'd even say. I just don't know the specifics.
I'm gonna try to talk you into a higher number. I'm gonna ask you how many times a day you think the police pull someone over to the curb, and what
millions.
percentage of the time do the police reach through the window, drag the guy out of the window, and shoot him in the head? It has happened. And
Joe, have you ever done that?
Horrifies us, but it has happened a tiny number of times, and obviously that's the worst case scenario, is when someone loses their life. There are other scenarios where the police pull you over and they break your tail light and give you a ticket, and that's the famous scene from the movies or something. I just don't think that that's happening with 1% of the police officers. I think it might be more like 1/1000th of 1%.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about per police interaction, then I would say statistically it correlates to, exactly what you're saying, like 1,000th% when we're talking about what actually is a statistic that we can pull up and that we can show. All I'm saying is 99%, without going, hey, 99.99999%, I just say 99%. But I know that last year that there were 19 officer unarmed shootings. There were 19 deaths by black individuals, and I know there were 40 white individuals. So I know that it can happen, and it may, those, what, 60 things that I just said, the 19 and the 40, might even be not even fully criminally. It might be like manslaughter or accident or criminal negligence, like a
Well, do
hot
those
car, maybe a
numbers
child in there.
do those numbers include situations where the the police were stopping someone who was in the middle of killing other people?
Oh
Or,
yeah, no, that's not, I'm talking about I mean, look, I've
you,
gone
no,
over
no, I'm
I've
just
gone over the
curious.
FBI
We don't know whether
statistics with
those
people, and I
numbers.
agree with you. There's a reason why specific narratives are being spun up right now, and I don't agree with the way that they're trying to correlate numbers versus what's it called, officer interactions, right? African Americans in America are I think it's twice to 3 times as likely to encounter a law enforcement officer. So you're even talking about shootings that are happening lesser with more interactions happening. And there's even been studies that say that police are less likely to shoot because they don't want to be targeted for a racial premise or an
Oh, I
allegation.
believe it now. And
Yeah.
after all of this, oh my gosh, this is why, I mean, I'm not a cop for many reasons, but if all of this is happening and I was a cop, I would never want to approach any situation with a black person ever. Like, I just wouldn't, because I'd be afraid of what could happen with you just never know.
And that's the crappy part, is that's what this channel exists for, is so that we can have conversations and we can meet in the middle of the aisle. See, I'm starting a new podcast soon. It's going to be called Middle of the Aisle. Spoiler alert, everybody. And so what I'm going to try to do is bring your most radical minded individuals, from your individualists to your collectivists, your anarcho-socialist guy, the guy that wants to live on a hippie commune. And I want to see, can we even agree on things anymore? Can we agree to disagree if we can agree on things? Or is this past the point of no return? Can you get people that are civil, that can honestly agree on both sides of the fence, or they disagree on both sides of the fence? They come together and they can make a compromise. Like, hey, I'm willing to compromise certain definitions of police immunity, and then, hey, we've got to start injecting more accountability in these neighborhoods and making sure that officers are more involved, and maybe injecting some funding that's more like officer community relations. Like, at some point, if we can't even come together and talk anymore, like you were just saying, you get called a racist, you get called all these other, how can we even have a talk or a conversation about this if immediately we're at each other's throats, or one person's caught having to defend themselves from, oh, you're a racist, or this or that?
Right. And no, that's a great point. And we've talked on this show before about how conversations are what need to happen to change minds. If a conversation can't happen, nothing's going to change if two people are just yelling at each other, throwing insults. Nothing's going to change. Everyone's probably going to come out of that debate being more extreme about their views than they were before, because they're just arguing. And it's important to be able to listen to each other.
But the stop all word here is, you're a racist. You're a racist.
And
that's not the whole conversation. Everybody goes about their way. Nothing gets solved.
That's the definition of the race card. You can be arguing about poverty or something else, and as soon as someone says your attitude indicates that you are a racist, you can't talk about poverty anymore. You can't talk about whatever you were talking about. You have to stop. You have to stop and defend yourself, and that it makes sense. It is a great card to play because it works. If someone on this show were to call me a racist, I guarantee you I'd spend the next 5 minutes trying to talk to everyone into
why you're not. Yeah.
You're not a racist.
Yeah, you get stuck, whether you want to even bring it to that point where you're having to defend yourself, because they're so aggressive in that labeling. You find yourself defending yourself. You have to at that point, because inaction at that point means, in a way, you agree with them or you're validating what they say.
Well, and there's been a recent leapfrog. There's a sort of a leapfrog in the argument where critical race theory seems to be saying, in essence, because of who you are, because of who you were on the day you were born, you are a racist. You cannot help being a racist. We don't need to talk about your attitude or your upbringing. We don't need to talk about your friends or anything that you've ever done at work, because you are a racist, and that defines everything you do. So that
And
not the race
Gary,
card. Yes, ma'am.
I've had people tell me, because whenever someone says you're racist, if you're not white, like that's the first thing you throw out. You're like, oh, I'm black, I'm Mexican, I can't be right. And so for me, I'll be like, oh, but I'm black, and I can guarantee you, everyone who's watching is like, what? No, she's not. I am as black as Obama. My mom is black, my dad is white, and I have my opinion invalidated so many times by liberals.
Because the same people that tell you not to judge by skin color do the same thing to you. And they clutter up all the talk time with their little chants. And once you get people moving in a chant, it's like it's not even about what they were trying to imply as a label on you. It's about, I got the crowd worked up now, so I can make people do irrational, illogical things. And police are going to have to step back. And a lot of the times I've seen these conservative, like libertarian conservative type people that go in, Caitlin Bennett, you got Steven Crowder, they go in these spaces. The cops will tell you to leave when you're in your right. You may even have a permit to be there out in public, to have a table set up, the change my mind table or anything like that. You may have a press pass, everything. But if the mob gets violent enough, they get the mob going hard enough, it has nothing to do with your point versus my point. The police is going to go, do you mind leaving now? Because I know you'll be civil and you will leave, but these people won't leave. And I've seen that happen a lot of times.
Yes.
Well, and I agree with the police in that case. I mean, unless you really want to fight someone, maybe to the death, there are a lot of times where discretion is the better part of valor. It's like, you want to fight, and I don't want to fight, so I will see you later.
Yeah, much rather be an alive coward than a brave dead guy. You know what I'm saying? The bravest dead guy doesn't get to write his own book, no matter how brave he was.
Facts.
How heroic his story was. Yeah.
Can I go backwards here a little bit to police in the community? We've done a lot of these shows in years past about this. The police activities leagues. I don't even know if they still have that. They used to have coffee with a cop, and you could meet the sector division commander at these meetings. They'd have like in recreation centers and all. And I haven't seen any of these going on lately. I don't know what happened to the police activities league, which they sponsor sports.
That kind of went by the wayside, because there were no children, no people coming to the meetings. Nobody was getting involved. I was part of that league.
They should move that online.
Were you?
Yeah, and it's something you do as a police officer. You want to help people. You want to get them out of that rut that they're in, put them somewhere else where they can thrive. I was a gang investigator for the DA's office for 5 years here in Austin.
Any suggestions?
No, I mean, the cops are afraid to talk to anybody now. They don't want to see the wrong thing, because all of a sudden they're bad guys.
You get canceled. There was a guy who donated $25 to Kyle Rittenhouse's what do you call it, bail?
Yes.
There was a police officer donated $25, did it privately. They hacked the fund.
Wow.
It leaked all their information. They doxed this cop, got him fired the next day.
Yep.
Cop fired. Didn't even inject his opinion, just sent $25 and a Christmas card, basically.
Wow. I did see one thing, though, that made me laugh, a recent police interaction with someone. It was all over Twitter. I guess I don't know what someone was doing, but they were being pulled over, and the person who was pulled over said, "Are you gonna shoot me like Michaela? What's her name? Michaela what?" And he goes, "Are you gonna stab someone like her?" I was cracking up. The police officer said that.
But what really scares me about, you're talking about things that we can do. I mean, we've even had congressional leaders like Rand Paul getting chased out by the mob. Them telling and yelling at him, yell Breonna's name, say Breonna. He authored Breonna Taylor no-knock bill that would stop no-knock warrants. He authored it. He's been saying her name for a long time before those grifters even showed up to DC. But they were pelting him and spitting on him and knocking the cops over that were around him. It's gotten to the point where our congressional leaders have to watch what they say. You
Didn't
get
Ted
jumped going to your
Cruz have
car.
an incident? I think Ted Cruz had an incident like maybe half a year ago.
Maybe.
And then there's people like Maxine Waters. She's the one who's like, you know, encouraging everyone to act like that. And
yeah, we got it live on my show, her calling for violence, in about six or seven different camera points of view. Made sure I went back over it again because I want to make sure, you know, I'm not defaming anybody. And no, she calls for violent multiple times. She said, I don't want manslaughter. She said, no, he's guilty of murder charges. She makes sure she insinuates it by looking into the cam and saying that we need to do more. After they had already looted all of the business strips around Brooklyn Center in Minnesota, they had already done, I guess, enough to be considered a irrational cry out for attention. But what ended up happening from this is she's basically continuing and sustaining it. When she goes there, she just pushes the beach ball back into the air. And all these people, she'll leave, go back to her nice apartment or get back in her limo, back to the chopper, back to her nice house. And all these people will be back out there poor and looking for answers and acting irrationally. And she will have been the catalyst, the spark. And nothing gets said.
Brent, you before we started the show, we spoke for 5 minutes, and it's the first time I've ever met you. But you said some things that indicate that you have some faith in democracy. You said that if we have any problem with these elected people, we don't have to do away with the system. We just elect different people, and we can correct that. Talk a little bit about the fact that the woman we've been talking about is an elected official. She's chosen by her constituents in Houston to represent them and to speak for them. Can she be defeated because of
Maxine Waters?
Yes.
She's from California.
Yeah, she's a Cali. She's from California. She's a rental property owner. You want to know a little FYI about Maxine Waters? She rents property in an area. She claims one of those is her address. She went and got basically locally elected there. Left that area. She lives in DC. She don't live in California. She lives 2,500 miles away, basically. And all she ever shows up, she's basically Jesse Jackson. She shows up to get people hyped up and mad, and she leaves. And she also has a congressional spot. You know,
and will her constituents replace her with someone who's less incendiary?
Did she recently?
It really depends. I was telling you about that.
Every 2 years. Every 2 years, Jennifer.
Yeah, every 2 years they're liable to be primaried out. That's why they always say, we'll just primary you out. It's because even if we have a crappy election like the one we just had, where we had amazing results in like all but one decision, which was the presidential decision. I mean, we gained in the House by over a dozen seats. We're looking to get 5 of the next 7 added seats to the House. And it's just, and then you're looking at like Joe Biden as a president, you know, the most quote unquote popular president of all time. Can't even get 5,000 people to his live shows whenever he mutters in front of the camera like the Pope, and everybody goes, "Oh my goodness, isn't he so nice? He's got a dog and a cat." But like you're saying, we can vote him out in the primary, y'all. It's never too late. You just got to have faith in the system, and as we learn and we adapt and we realize that technology is getting woven into this type of electorate, we need to be more vigilant as citizens. You know, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, or shame on, what is it? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. It's basically, you're not going to fool me again. We have people that'll be vigilantly wanting to get involved secretly on both sides. There'll be Democrats that want to hop over and be Republican poll watchers. There'll be Republicans now that understand they can be Democratic poll watchers. It's going to get, it will evolve as a constituency, and we will move on from this and we'll be stronger. The thing is, we'll grow. There'll be a lot of collateral damage. There'll be riots. There will be people that are upset always. But we have to leave it up to our politicians not to be the type that get people going that direction. And if you are a moderate Democrat and you are watching this, there are other Democrats that are more towards the center that actually represent classical democratic ideals, that are not some neoliberal far leftist shill that's got a backseat lobbyist agenda, a book of
And
bureaucrats.
you know what I found? I found that the more classic liberals, I think they're coming more towards us, because the Democrats have gone so far left, but they've stayed where they are. So they've kind of like shifted more towards us. And because people that are in the middle, I'm pretty sure vote more Republican than Democrat. I mean, that's just, what do y'all think? Do you think?
Well, the thing is the left, it becomes less and less inclusive. That's really what it is, in the name of inclusivity. But really what happens is the people that are Democrats would never tell you that they've changed, because they probably still hold on. I mean, after you're 30 years old, not much changes about you as far as what you believe. There might be certain social
What if you've been
standards.
30 twice, like 3 of us here?
But yeah, I mean, I'm just finding that out. As being a 34-year-old man, I am finding that I believe what I believe in, and I have my backbone is the only thing that's growing nowadays, which is the ability to stand for what I believe in. And that's what's happening right now. The left is moving further to the left. A lot of Democrats would say, I didn't leave the left left me. They'll still tell you they're all about classical liberalism. They're all about having the free exchange, the marketplace of goods, services, and ideas. That's as classical liberal as it gets. And what's more uninclusive than saying, if you don't believe in X, Y, and Z, you're a racist, homophobic, bigoted, xenophobic, white supremacist.
Right?
Exactly.
When you get technology woven into politics, Brent,
yes, sir,
you've got a problem, because then you can cut off whatever you're hearing. You don't want anybody else to hear. And this was what happened to the Trump administration.
Yeah.
They cut him off.
Look at Trump. He still has like no social media presence.
Yeah.
It's crazy when you just think about it.
What other presidents ever? Who's ever done that to another president? Nobody has. Nobody.
Yeah, I mean, what papers in, let's say, the 30s or the 40s were censoring whatever the competing Republican thing was. It wasn't Facebook, but it was the paper. Who was being censored out of the paper? It's never happened like this before. What's happening is tech companies are hiding behind the government. The government's hiding behind them. It's like two people hiding behind each other. So when you go to the government with your grievance, they go, oh, well, this is a company. They have their own terms of service. You agree to it. You sign the contract. So you deal with the consequences, right? Then when you go to the private company, the organizations, they say, well, look, we're just trying to protect you because our new active social standards are a mimic of what our government and our society is. So they basically, it plays the role of government. And they're just hiding behind each other. There's no, like I was talking about, accountability. What we need is accountability. And with more freedom, yes, comes the opportunity for maybe more tragedy to some degree, because you have the freedom to commit those acts. But being guilty before you've ever done anything, and basically saying you have no freedoms now, gives no accountability, because every time something goes wrong, it wasn't you that was the product of your own devices. It was something that the government, in their estimate, could have done, that now systematically we need to change so that next time we can blanket fix all these blanket situations. And it just can't happen like that. So ultimately, the answer to your question is we need more accountability.
But you know what? People get really brave behind this computer because nobody can see them. When you get face to face with somebody, that's a different story.
True.
I mean, they can hide and put anything down on the computer if they want to, and they can accuse you of a lot of things, and they do. And and then you want to defend yourself, and you can't, because they put the stuff all over the media, every platform that they can find. They put they disrespect you. They do whatever they want to do to you, and they trash you.
I mean,
you got to defend yourself.
I was more so commenting on as it becomes more. If you were asking me what my utopia would be, what would be my choice, it would be just paper ballots with hand counting, and have an equal number of poll watchers, and have dispatch deputies and sheriffs at every polling locations that are adequately trained on election law, that understand the basic visual. Hey, I can enact basic police function if I see X, Y, and Z happening. That would be comprehensive for me. Very simple. I've even heard man, I gotta get his name. I don't want to mispronounce his name, but the guy who invented email, he is saying, because he studies patterns, so he studies patterns to see irregularities, and in studying these patterns, he came up. His name's Dr. Shiva, and he came up with these patterns that show that the rate of majority Republican districts that just somehow that were supposed to outperform the majority blue districts, Trump actually did worse in those, and he's showing that there was an algorithm. So what we need people that are dedicated like Dr. Shiva that can study these patterns and validate them. We need Congress to give them a deputized power, create a whole committee, create a branch of the cabinet that can study that, because transition of power, most important thing.
I wanted Brant to talk about a big national issue. If Pokey will mute himself, we won't have to listen to his conversations. And then maybe turn back to an Austin issue, because we've got a homeless camping situation that you're familiar with because you're in Austin. But first, on the national issue, you mentioned Trump and supporting Trump. I noticed that President Trump endorsed Susan Wright, a candidate for the late Ron Wright seat. So he is absolutely taking an active role in the Republican Party today and right here in Texas. What do you think is the role that you would predict for Donald Trump within the Republican Party over the next few years?
Well, I think he's adequately earned the Republican God King title. And when I say that, I mean, we have so much trust in who he will endorse that when he anoints the next person, a section of his reputation will transfer to this person, a section of loyalty. So what I would really like to see Trump do is outline 3 to 5 individuals that he truly does trust, truly does endorse, people that are like him, get them in the spotlight right now for 2024. Get them running, get all the bad stories out, get all the bad press out of the way. I would really like to see him do that. And there are a couple people that before 3 weeks ago, I would have named them, but I can't because there's active investigations on them. And I don't know how much of that is Democrats grasping for straws. I don't know how much of that is just they know that anoint is coming. So they want to make sure they taint the person's name before they get anointed. With this particular, hey, I really believe wholeheartedly in this or that candidate from Donald Trump. But that's what I would like to see Donald Trump do. I wouldn't want to see Donald Trump get back into this if I knew that at the end of his campaign in 2024, he'd be 78 and he'd be like Joe Biden, completely used, spent, elderly abuse. His family is milking him dry.
But Trump is sharp.
No, Trump is great. I got complete confidence in Trump right now. But dude, 5 years ago, Joe Biden to 5 years
now.
That
is true.
Y'all, when you're in your 70s, it has fast. Your physical, like you can, in 10 years, 60 to 70 may not change much, but your mind can go very, very quickly. And I would never want to
confusing the names of various Congress women. It's
yeah. You might even drop the N-word a couple times or something. Like Biden's already done. Like, holy crap, Biden! Come on, dude.
Okay, well, as I said, moving right along. This is an Austin show. We're on Austin Public Television.
Yes.
And so let's talk about an Austin issue. We've got. I'm sorry. Oh, Channel 10. Yes, thank you, Channel 10. So what are your thoughts on the way this council has handled the situation with the homeless? And have you voted yet? And what do you think the outcome of this vote's going to be on Prop B?
I have not voted yet, but I would like to see a new plan. What's working right now is not working, and it's only, like I said, it's only gotten worse. I'm a runner. I go run Town Lake, Lady Bird, and I run the entirety. I run from Mopac all the way to 35 and back. And You go down that area right there.
It should be a beautiful run, but that makes me cringe that
you know what I'm talking about. You know exactly where I'm going with this. The entire, from the last 5 years since I started running there, in the last 5 years, it went from maybe seeing 1 to 2 tents temporarily. They would move, you know what I'm saying? It wouldn't like, this is my new established residence. It went from 1 to 2 to where there might be 50 tents on a block. There might be 50 tents on one block. And I'm talking about when you're walking or running Town Lake, that's 7.5 miles all the way around. So think about how many blocks are in that. It's anywhere from 10 to 50, even the feeder road on the highway. I would really like to see the city do something with it.
And have you been down a riverside?
I would like to see Prop B, and I would like to see I would like to bring back the camping and panhandling laws, and I would like to see, you know, something put on top of that where we can, maybe not necessarily incentivize, but motivate in some way, maybe exchanging nonprofit infrastructure, local social programs, so we can incentivize people to get back on the street, because these people don't just go away when we ban these things. So I would like to see an aggressive yet civilized approach. I mean, obviously what I'm saying is like some utopia type stuff. It's going to take people that take a lot more caution, and you know, they have a better technical writer that could write this out than I can. But I would just like to see.
It's totally doable. And Brant, I don't know how much you go towards maybe Round Rock or south towards Kyle, but when you get out of Austin, right away it all disappears. No tents. Like it all goes away magically right away. So it is very possible.
No, yeah, no, it's very, very possible. I'm just saying that when you've created a mess, it's kind of like, I don't want Austin to just create these laws and then turn their back.
Okay.
And not have a plan. It's kind of like Biden's border policy, like we were just talking about a little bit ago. The Democrat game plan was to allow holes in the border, allow entrance into the country, and turn their head the other way. That was the kind of citizenship that they wanted to give. The kind of citizenship where corporate establishments can take advantage of under the table labor in urbanized cities, and we could flood the cities with particular undocumented immigrants. And that doesn't fix the problem, because you still have a person that's fearing for their life, that can't call the police when they get assaulted, that's probably going to be out on the streets homeless for a while. It doesn't solve those real issues. Really, what the Democrats did was they just left the door open. It's not empowering people. It's not setting people up with, you know, programs or anything, which that should be micromanaged to your community. That's not a federal thing. But at the same time, you're allowing people to be trafficked by coyotes first into the country. Then, like I said, they can't call the police. Who are they going to call when they get in trouble? They're stuck slaves. They're human trafficking. You think they just walk away from the coyotes as soon as they make it in? The coyote knows exactly who they are. They know, you know, some of them. Well, we can't get into that on the channel, but it's incredibly terrible, the horrid conditions that the Democrats will allow people to immigrate into this country under, without going into specifics. I'm used to going into specifics on my show, but I understand I gotta dial it back a little bit.
Hey, Brent, how do you think they got from Honduras to the Texas border if they didn't pay somebody all the way up?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think a child walked 2,000 miles up the Honduran coast. Yeah, for sure. I don't think so.
When you come from China, when you come from Iran, when you come from Africa, it costs you at least $30,000 to $40,000 American dollars to come through Mexico.
Yeah.
All right, and they'll bring you to the border, and then the coyote brings you across the river, and then they pick you up on the other side, and then you're still controlled. That's human trafficking.
Yep. No, that's 100% what that is. It's they said that the first month that we had the crisis, which I believe was February, it was I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, but I think it was $600 million that they made, like the coyotes made in a month, in 30 days.
It's better than drugs. It's better than dealing in drugs. It's a package you're going to deliver, and then you got paid.
And y'all know,
well, the thing is they can't take you to jail for the person could just say, hey, look, I'm here now, like I came here on my own. They're not going to admit that a coyote smuggled them, because then it will admit to criminal entrance into the United States. They'll run straight with open arms to the Border Patrol, because Biden's going to allow them to be dismissed back into the society with a pay card, $1,400 pay card. So the coyotes know that this is a safer thing for them. They don't have to deal drugs, so they'll get shot dead if they're trying to run through the desert with a big thing of drugs with like an AK on their chest or something. They'll get shot. But when you got a caravan of children, it's like a hostage negotiation, like a friendly, weird, cryptic hostage situation, just a caravan of people walking up to you. And ICE and Border Patrol, they really can't do anything. Their hands are tied because they're federal policy. They're ran federally. So that Biden is the one that sole finger. He created this, he perpetuated it, and he sustains it, and he has the ultimate power to stop it and fix it at any moment. America is such a powerful country infrastructurally. We can fix any of these small problems so easily. It's just our media and our politicians like to fantasize it and doom and gloom it and make it into for instance, or the opposite. They try to take what could be a very scary situation and try to make it sound fantastical, like the Democrats.
Well, Brett, we got a few minutes left here. I'd like to go a different direction here for just a minute or two. Your thoughts on COVID and the vaccine? Should you get it or not?
I'm a libertarian, so if you want to, you should consult your doctor first. I would say do a lot of research, see how it affects people that have prior physical ailments, genealogy-wise. But I would say consult your doctor.
I got my second shot today, so I had to ask. You hear some kind of stories out there, and I tried to talk to my doctor. They said, go ahead and do it, so...
So wait, you tried to go get your second shot, but they said they wouldn't give it to you?
No, they gave it to me.
Oh, they gave it to
That's
you.
why I'm
Where did you go? Did you get Johnson & Johnson, or did you get Moderna, or which one did you get?
Moderna? I went to the VA.
Okay.
VA clinic.
Right on.
Well,
yeah, my dad said that he wants to wait a little longer.
Now that you have both shots, does that mean you're virus free? And you don't have to wear a mask?
I don't know.
See, that's the thing. That's where I'm really scared. I get really scared when I see that.
That is another form of control the population. And you can't unmask anybody, because now they make you feel bad. You can't walk in the store without a mask.
Yeah. You're gonna kill my grandpa. You're gonna kill my grandma. That's what they say.
But, now they're talking about the children, that they don't need to be with masks on outside, because everybody. There was a guy, a coach in some high school, that said that they had to have masks while playing tennis.
We're about to go off TV.
Yeah, football, and it was like,
we're about to go off TV.
Yeah. I would just say, and I would just say this. Look,
here on Facebook.
Okay. Well, what I was going to say is,
Look.
When you were asking about the pandemic, right? You were asking me what are my thoughts on the pandemic. I went off on the COVID vaccine. Yeah. I purely think that COVID exists. I think it was used politically. Masks are a way of socially controlling people. The vaccines are a way to, I guess, dispel it slowly, so that way you can't just be like, oh, I guess it doesn't exist anymore. Because then people will be like, well, what the hell did we just do for 15 months? But I believe that it was majorly used as political tool. It does affect people. If you have comorbidities, you really should take it seriously. If you have lung problems, if you have congenital problems, if you're older than, I'd say 60, I think you really should take this seriously. But the young productive population being shut down and being quarantined, that was to get us mad and in the streets. And it worked. It got a lot of people mad. All of the large stores couldn't hire. All the small businesses couldn't hire. When they couldn't hire, they went out of business. So now you don't have businesses being tended to by business owners, which means empty, open property for people to go and screw with. And you got disillusioned teens and 20, 30-something-year-olds. And I've even seen 60-year-old Marxists out there. I don't understand how you can live 60 years on this earth and still think that you can just be an authoritarian, you know, and that entire, you know, think of socialism and the proletariat and all that. I just need,
You heard
after
the
you've
news
worked
from
60
India?
years. Say again?
You heard about India?
Yeah, I
They
think.
seem to have a new COVID spike.
Well, that's the thing is there's always
Anyway,
a
they've
new
had
flu. There's always a new flu. There's always going to be a new
always a
flu.
new something, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah,
didn't they just shut down France again or something?
yeah, these are all political tools. I would just say, look, when your government starts the doom and gloom talk, look at your calendar, look at what's going on in other countries around you, look at where your army and your navy and your air force is, look at what your national guard is doing, look at your local news, and then if you have local affiliates, public channels like this one, I would say consult to those, because that's going to be an unincentivized opinion, meaning I'm not up here wasting my breath for nothing. I'm
Right.
up here because I believe in this. This is not fun to destroy your reputation being a libertarian conservative, being called an insurrectionist, bigoted, homophobic, racist, all of this stuff. Just all these words that have to be thrown at me. There's no fun in that. There's no like incentive in me doing that. I truly believe in what I believe in, and we need more people that are walking around that believe in that stuff. So that way, when somebody says something, you go, oh, you're just repeating what CNN says, or wow, I actually take value in what you're saying because it seems as though you yourself give a crap about the opinion you just told me. And that's the two roads you see nowadays. You have people that it may be a dumb opinion, which I still think you have the right to have, but it's either people that mimic the news and spread doom and gloom, or people that truly are like, look, I'm gonna tell you what it is. You know, I can't go into the euphemism, but you can paint the barn whatever color you want, but inside there's something in the hay. There's something in every barn's hay. And you know, and that's just the way that I feel about it personally.
Yeah. Y'all, I have to run out really fast.
We have lost our TV audience. We're still on Facebook, so let's say goodnight to our Facebook audience and thank Brant for being on the show. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yes.
Thank y'all so much for having me. It was a pleasure to meet all of y'all.
You're awesome. Like, you were wonderful. We need to have you again. You have a lot of information, and you have a golden audience.
Well, I get used to kind of just rambling. Like I said, my name's Brant, but sometimes people say I be ranting a lot, and
That's
so
funny.
I mean, it has its strength and its weaknesses. Sometimes I get to the point where I'm just kind of redundantly circling the wagons. But the thing about truth is people, you know, they get it, they understand, and I think most of America psychiatrically gets it. It's just getting people to physically recognize it and stand up when they see it and call it out for what it is, and just without being combative, like find a way that you can, like I said, middle of the aisle, where you can meet somebody in the middle of the aisle, because as long as you launch back, you're giving them the door to come right back at you.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. Are we off base?
I believe that we are.
So tomorrow at 11 a.m. 11 a.m. Eastern, that is.